Three men, different centuries, different circumstances, different worlds. Marcus Aurelius governed 60 million people from the throne of Rome. Epictetus lived in chains, owned by a master who broke his leg for sport. Seneca navigated the most dangerous court in the ancient world, advising an emperor who would eventually order his death. And all three of them practiced the same discipline, quietly, without announcement, without seeking recognition for it. It was not a complicated practice. It did not require wealth or power or freedom. Epictetus practiced it in literal chains. The discipline was this: turn inward, guard the mind, and stay silent about everything beyond your control. 2,000 years later, the noise is louder than it has ever been. The demands on your attention are more sophisticated than anything the Stoics faced, and the discipline they practice is more necessary and more rare than at any point in human history. Today, we go deep into exactly what that discipline looks like, not as history, as practice, not as inspiration, as instruction. The attention economy. Think about the last 24 hours. How many opinions did you give that no one asked for? How many arguments did you get pulled into that had nothing to do with your actual life? How many times did you reach for your phone not because you needed something, but simply because silence had appeared and you could not tolerate it? This is not an accident, and it is not a personal failing. We live inside what the Stoics would immediately recognize as an attention economy. Every notification, every controversy, every outrage cycle is engineered with extraordinary precision and enormous financial investment to pull you away from the one territory that could actually change your life, your own mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote nearly 2,000 years ago, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wrote that as a private note to himself, in a palace, while running an empire, because even the emperor of Rome found it necessary to remind himself daily that the battle for his mind was the only battle that ultimately mattered. The battle has not changed, only the weapons have. What Stoic silence actually means: before the 5 principles, one necessary clarification, because Stoic silence is one of the most misunderstood ideas in philosophy. It is not coldness. Marcus Aurelius wept for people he lost. He wrote with unmistakable warmth about his teachers and his family. It is not emotional suppression. Epictetus did not claim his broken leg did not hurt. Seneca did not pretend that exile was comfortable. And it is not avoidance. These were 3 of the most engaged, consequential human beings of the ancient world. Stoic silence is something more specific and more powerful. It is the deliberate decision to withhold your reaction until you have chosen what your reaction will be. It is the discipline of not giving external events automatic authority over your internal state. And it is the practice, daily, imperfect, requiring constant renewal, of returning to your own mind as the primary place where your life is actually lived. 5 principles, each one a different dimension of the same discipline. Principle 1, speak less, mean more. Seneca was almost obsessed with this. He watched the most powerful people in Rome, senators, generals, emperors, destroy their credibility, their relationships, and their peace of mind entirely through the undisciplined use of words. He wrote to his friend Lucilius, "Retire into yourself as much as you can. Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." He is not saying become a hermit. He is saying be ruthlessly selective about where you send your words, because words are not free. Every argument you enter, every opinion you volunteer, every explanation you offer when no explanation was asked for, each one draws from a reserve that could have been directed elsewhere. Seneca's test before speaking: is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Will it improve on the silence? If the answer to all 3 was not yes, he stayed silent. Try this for 1 day. Notice how many of your usual responses don't pass that test. And notice what happens to your peace when you hold back what doesn't. Principle 2, the unreactive man. There is a psychological principle the Stoics understood nearly 2 millennia before modern science confirmed it. Reactive people are predictable. Predictable people are controllable. When you argue back automatically, and when you defend yourself the moment you are challenged, when you explain yourself to everyone who questions you, you hand over your power, not to your enemy, to the event itself. Marcus Aurelius, as Emperor of Rome, was provoked constantly. Rivals with hidden agendas, senators who despised him, people who had spent decades building the architecture to bring him down. And his response was described by those who watched him as devastating in its simplicity. He simply did not react. He wrote in the Meditations, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. Not a countermove, not a defense, just a continued, quiet, undisturbed fact of who he was." This is what makes unreactivity so powerful. There is no strategy available to someone trying to provoke a person who has decided not to be provoked. Principle 3. The dichotomy of control. Epictetus built his entire philosophy on one foundational line. Some things are within our control and some things are not. Within your control, your judgments, your choices, your values, how you respond to what is given to you. Outside your control, everything else. Other people's behavior, other people's opinions, the economy, the weather, your reputation, whether your effort is recognized, whether the person you love chooses to stay. Most people spend the majority of their mental energy fighting the second category, trying to manage what they cannot manage, and then wondering, exhausted, anxious, powerless, why nothing seems to move. The Stoic discipline of self-focus is, at its core, the practice of redirecting that energy away from what you cannot change, back to the only territory that actually responds to your attention, yourself, your craft, your character, your choices, your growth. This is not resignation. It is the most efficient use of the only resource you actually have. Principle 4. Become a lighthouse, not a mirror. Most people are mirrors. Someone is angry at them, they become angry. Someone criticizes them, they collapse or retaliate. Someone praises them, they float. Their entire emotional weather system is determined by what arrives from outside. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." A lighthouse does not react to the storm. It does not move when the waves hit. It does not change its beam based on what the weather is doing. It simply shines steadily, reliably, and in doing so, it saves the people navigating in the dark. Here is the paradox most people never discover. The more deeply you invest in your own inner life, your character, your clarity, your stability, the more powerfully you serve the people around you. Not because you are performing stability, because you have built it, and people navigating their own storms can feel the difference. Principle 5. The inner retreat. This is the principle that holds all the others together. Marcus Aurelius wrote repeatedly about what he called the inner retreat. The idea that regardless of where you are physically, regardless of how chaotic the world outside becomes, there exists within you a space that the world cannot reach. Not because you have built a wall against it, but because you have built something inside that is more solid than anything the world can throw against it. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The inner retreat is not a place you go to hide. It is a place you go to remember who you are when the noise drops away, to remember what you value when approval is not available, to remember what direction you are moving when everyone around you is moving in a different one. This retreat is always available. It costs nothing. It requires no particular circumstance. It requires only the habit, practiced daily, imperfectly, persistently, of choosing to return to it. Philosophy without practice is decoration. The Stoics were, above all else, practitioners. 5 practices, each one drawn directly from the Stoic tradition, each one small enough to begin today. Practice 1. The Morning Silence Protocol. Marcus Aurelius began every morning the same way. Before the court filled with noise, before the responsibilities of empire, he sat, he wrote, he thought. The meditations were his private morning practice, a daily recalibration of his values before the world made its demands. The modern equivalent: for the first 20 minutes after you wake up, do not touch your phone, do not check messages, do not consume anything. Instead, write 3 things: who you intend to be today, what you are grateful for, one thing within your control that you will act on. Marcus Aurelius did this while governing 60 million people. You can do it before your commute. Practice 2, the 3-question filter. Before speaking, in any conversation, any message, any response, Seneca asked himself 3 questions. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Will it improve on the silence? Try this for 1 day. Before every response, every reply, every comment, run it through the filter. You will find that most of what you are about to say does not pass, and you will find that the things that do carry far more weight than they would have otherwise. Practice 3, voluntary discomfort. The Stoics regularly and deliberately chose discomfort. Simple food when rich food was available. Cold water, early rising, fasting, not as punishment, as training, because they understood something most people learn only in crisis. When you are attached to comfort, anything that threatens it owns you. When you have voluntarily experienced discomfort and survived it, you carry a knowledge no amount of theory can provide. You know you can handle more than comfort. Told you. Once a week, choose 1 deliberate discomfort: a cold shower, a fasting day, an afternoon without your phone. Not because it is pleasant, because every time you do it, the threshold of what frightens you rises. Practice 4, the evening audit. Epictetus recommended ending each day with 3 questions. Where did I lose control of my responses today? Where did I speak when silence would have served better? Where did I look outward for something I should have found within? This is not self-criticism. It is self-knowledge. And self-knowledge, the Stoics believed, is the beginning of all mastery. 5 minutes, 3 questions, every evening, not to judge the day, to understand it. Practice 5, the 3-breath retreat. Whenever the world feels overwhelming, before you react, before you speak, before you engage, take 3 slow, deliberate breaths. That is the entire practice, but inside those 3 breaths, something specific is happening. You are creating the gap between the event and your response. You are choosing not to be a mirror. You are returning, briefly, deliberately, to the inner retreat. Marcus Aurelius called this space the foundation of every good decision. 3 seconds, 3 breaths. The gap in which your entire character either holds or doesn't. Start there. What changes? When you commit to this discipline, imperfectly, consistently, over time, 4 things tend to happen. Your anxiety begins to decrease, not because your problems disappear, but because you stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight. The energy spent managing what you cannot control becomes available for what you can. Your focus sharpens. When you stop giving your attention to everything that asks for it and start directing it toward what actually matters, the quality of everything accelerates. Your relationships deepen. When you become more selective about who receives your energy, the connections you do invest in become something different, because you are showing up as the real version of yourself, not the performed, approval-seeking version, the one that was always there, underneath the noise. And you begin to trust yourself again. The constant noise of other people's opinions gradually loses its authority. And in the quiet that remains, you hear your own voice, perhaps clearly for the first time in years. 2,000 years ago, a man in chains refused to let his captors reach his mind. An emperor wrote private notes to himself every morning to stay grounded in a world designed to unsettle him. A wealthy advisor walked away from power and status to focus entirely on the only thing he actually owned, his inner life. The battle they fought is your battle. The discipline they built is available to you. It begins with a single, quiet decision to turn inward, to guard what is yours, and to stay silent about the rest. Summary: 5 principles, 5 practices, 1 discipline. The morning silence before the world makes its demands. The 3-question filter before the words leave you. The voluntary discomfort before comfort becomes a chain. The evening audit and before the day becomes just another day. the 3-breath retreat and before the reaction decides for you. None of these are difficult to understand. All of them are difficult to sustain. That is not a problem. That is the point. The Stoics did not practice these disciplines because they were easy. They practiced them because the alternative, a mind owned by whatever the world decided to send at it you, was a life they refused to live. You have the same choice. Drop a comment and tell us, which of the 5 practices will you start first? We read every single one. Subscribe to Booked Wisdom for weekly philosophy and psychology, so delivered simply, honestly, and without performance. See you in the next one.